told by league officials they cannot wear the decal during any preseason or regular season games. That, according to Cowboys executive VP Stephen Jones. However, the Cowboys can wear the decal during training camp practices. Jones said everyone has to be uniform with the league and the other 31 teams. We respect their decision. Stephen A., is the NFL wrong?
No, they're not. NFL's not wrong at all. And I'm not joking about the Cowboys. I'm not sitting here talking about they're the worst fan base in American history and all of that stuff. That's all in fun because I'm a native New Yorker and I grew up hating the Cowboys. There's nothing malicious there. I'm just having fun. This is serious. I understand that the NFL has a uniform policy. There's certain things that they do, and they do it the way that they do it, and that's it. From the socks that you wear to the shoes that you wear to the colors that you wear. D'Angelo Williams, who was a guest on our show when we were in Pittsburgh, somebody that I've communicated with several times over the last year or so, really good brother. Obviously had, breast cancer issues to fend off with his mom. And, in honor of her, this pink in his hair, the pink shoes and things of that nature. And the NFL had a big time problem with it because they have Breast Cancer Awareness Month, if I remember correctly, but it's not something that you could do all year round for every game, et cetera, et cetera. And that's something that they insisted upon doing the way that they do. I understand their reasons and their rationale behind this, Max. That's not my issue. My issue is that the Dallas Cowboys can't be trusted when you come to the decal issue. And that may be a very unpopular decision. I certainly saw that people in Dallas, with the radio stations and beyond, had things to say about me after I alluded to that a few days ago. Let me be the first to say on national television, I don't give a damn. I could care less. Here's the reality of the situation, and it's not a laughing matter. The Dallas Cowboys haven't shown that they can be trusted to obey the law. I'm certainly not accusing them of trying to use this for media publicity or anything like that. I am in no way accusing the Dallas Cowboys of that. A matter of fact, I will go out of my way to say that I believe truly that their heart is in the right place because they're human beings just like the rest of us. And I applaud their efforts to try and do that because all of us should be sensitive to that. Just like Black Lives Matter wanted to bring attention to police brutality and violence on the part of some police officers against unarmed black citizens. The reality is that police officers out here are in danger as well. And when 5 police officers get gunned down, that's something that should touch all of our lives. That's why you had Dwayne Wade with LeBron James, Carmelo Anthony, and CP3 bring attention to that at the ESPYs, opening the ESPYs. We get all of that. The problem is that after you wear this decal and you bring attention and you lock arm in arm, then you go to the Dallas Cowboys history and the likelihood of something happening again because something always seems to happen with the Dallas Cowboys. And far more often than we would like or for our taste, it involves some semblance of lawlessness. Doesn't involve killings, doesn't involve murders, doesn't involve anything that egregious, but nevertheless, it involves stuff that they shouldn't be in the news for. And so to me, with the NFL, you don't want a team like the Dallas Cowboys wearing that decal on their helmet and then turning around and then 2 days later, 3 days later, or a week later, they're in the news for some level of lawlessness on the part of one of the idiots that they have playing for them. By and large, most of the guys inside their locker room know how to act. Jason Witten is class act. Tony Romo is a class act. I love me some Des Bryant despite some of his troubles from the past. I'm quite sure a vast majority of guys in their locker room know how to act and would act accordingly. But because of the culture that Jerry Jones has allowed to sift through his franchise like a virus, you can't trust them to eradicate or remove themselves from some level of lawlessness. So if I'm the NFL, that's the last franchise in the league that I would want wearing a decal honoring anybody when it comes to lawfulness, because I can't trust that the Dallas Cowboys are going to act accordingly. That's just my thought.
I'm glad you said there was no moral equivalency between some of the transgressions on the Cowboys that may take place in the future and the kind of crime that was committed when that maniac gunned down those police in cold blood.
No moral equivalency whatsoever. We'll never accuse them of that.
Of course. And I understand even the illusion, even though, again, you say that's not the case here, but to the idea that maybe the Cowboys are somehow being cynical in terms of their asking for permission to put the decal showing solidarity with the Dallas PD, because they know the NFL is going to turn them down. And the NFL is going to turn them down correctly, unfortunately, because there's a slippery slope. It becomes like Black Lives Matter wants to do something. Well, wait a minute. You did it for the Dallas PD. What about this innocent person that was killed? Some other group wants to make some kind of a statement a player or a team feels strongly about. How can, but I understand also the natural human reaction to hearing, wait a minute, this demented person in cold blood murders 5 Dallas PD who were there, law enforcement officers who were there ensuring the rights of protesters to essentially protest against the behavior of police, maybe not the Dallas PD particularly, but police generally, and they're there protecting and serving. And even when the bad stuff started happening that day, the police helped make sure it wasn't much worse. I understand the people of Earth looking at that and going, hold on. You can't honor them. You have a problem with a team honoring them. Same way with breast cancer awareness. Cancer is the enemy of humanity. I mean, there's no bigger enemy of humanity since the dawn of time than cancer. So I understand, again, where the people of Earth would look and say, wait a minute, the NFL has such an issue with the idea of their brand identity in some way that you can't even show support for people fighting cancer. And yet, because it is a slippery slope, because partly sports, especially when the games begin, is meant to distract, is an escape for people. They don't want to politicize it. And while what happened in Dallas and breast cancer, and there are other issues too that don't seem political, there will be others who come and say, well, wait a minute, our cause isn't really political either, and certainly has the moral equivalence of the causes you've already supported. And the NFL just can't get into that business. I get why they did it, but I also understand, Stephen A., the human reaction to this, which is, if we can't just get together as people and use some common sense and say, this was a heinous crime, good for the Cowboys supporting it, and why would the NFL stop that? I get that reaction. I understand it entirely. It was my gut reaction, too, before I thought it through.
Well, it's not, but at the same time, you know, people that have those feelings, they could have it. But again, you have to look at the big picture, because I'm not necessarily opposing those points that you made, but I'm talking about the Cowboys. Just a few days ago, if you recall, whether it was yesterday or the day before, I don't recall, we were talking about Art Browse, the former coach at Baylor, who was at Dallas Cowboys camp. Now, he went to various places, including Cleveland, because RG3 used to play for him as well. And I went on the record saying that when I met Art Browse, he seemed to be a very, very nice guy, and he's not the one who committed sexual assault, was arrested or accused of sexual assault, or in one case with another one of his players was sentenced to 20 years in prison for sexually assaulting 2 different women. That wasn't Art Browse. Those were his players. But the fact of the matter is, he was walking around fully anticipating that he was worthy of another job in the immediate future, because there were things that he couldn't say, there's things that he couldn't tell, and the bottom line is he was trying to come across as a victim. All right, that's fine. The problem is Jerry Jones stuck his nose into the equation and was speaking very, very glowingly about him and how much he loved the man, what he thought about the man, how he'd have no problem if his son was a football player and played for the man, blah, 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 blah. Now, this is in the immediate aftermath of you bringing Greg Hardy on your team last year, watching the distraction that he was, finally coming to your senses and letting him go. But then in the immediate aftermath of that, you are the one front and center, speaking up for Art Browse with no sensitivity whatsoever. And those are the kind of things that I'm talking about. Jerry Jones and the Cowboys, they got to watch it. I
want to deal with that point for a second. If your argument is because the Cowboys have a culture, or Jerry Jones in particular abides or somehow enables some kind of criminal behavior on his team, whether it's systemic, system in the Cowboys system, or it's just, a feeling that guys on the margins who don't behave can find a home with the Cowboys, that's a legitimate point. But I don't think that disqualifies the Cowboys from also trying to do good work and trying to support the right causes, including law enforcement causes.
Wait a minute. But I'm not saying it disqualifies them in terms of their own psyche, their own emotion, their own level of sensitivity in asking. I'm saying that the NFL has every right to disqualify them. I'm saying that even though the NFL probably did it to maintain control and have a uniform policy that's followed by all, it would not have bothered me one bit if the NFL said, we get where you're coming from, we appreciate it, but we don't trust you to carry the baton and conduct yourself in an upstanding fashion where when we look at that decal and we think about what transpired and we think about lawlessness, you're the paragon of virtue to bring an enlightened and sensitive perspective to that equation.
The NFL,
the Dallas Cowboys cannot be trusted to do that because of who they are.
From the NFL's point of view, yes. From Dallas PD, I think Dallas PD would I assume they would welcome the support.
I'm sure they would.
Right. But the NFL, I get the point.
But I think just like we did with Cam and putting past transgressions aside, say we do that for the Cowboys and we think they're authentic and they're being genuine, you appreciate the fact that they want to honor the police officers in their community that lost their lives, of course. But I think we all agree there is a uniform policy, Stephen A., and it can't turn into like a boxer shorts with all these different sponsors. There's so many causes that touch all of us. So I think we appreciate the intention, but it can't happen, and the NFL was in the right there. We all agree on that one. When we come back, a lot of people not down for Tim